dear audience. In the next few minutes, I would like to present my PhD topic entitled Investigation of the Effects of Biological Therapies on Cardiovascular Risk. I'm Noémi Galajda, first-year PhD student at the Department of Dermatology, Venerology and Dermatooncology of Semmelweis University. I'm doing my research work under the supervision of Ágnes and Péter Holló. And my vision is to lighten the burden and mortality caused by comorbidities in immune-mediated inflammatory diseases. And to achieve that, I would like to optimize the therapeutic sequence, taking into consideration their effects on the different comorbidities. Here you can see my two specific goals. In the first project, we would like to investigate the effect of a specific group of biological treatments, TNF-inhibitors, on the risk of cardiovascular events, generally in immune-mediated inflammatory diseases. Cardiovascular diseases are among the leading causes of morbidity and also mortality worldwide. The major pathogenical cause is atherosclerosis, in which a key inflammatory player is the tumor necrosis factor alpha. This cytokine is also a really important molecule in immune-mediated inflammatory diseases, and there is an increased risk of cardiovascular events among these patients compared to general population. TNF inhibitors are widely used biological treatments in IMID patients, and through the inhibition of chronic inflammation processes, they may have a beneficial effect on cardiovascular comorbidities. Unfortunately, because of their high cost in most regions, generally they are not among the first-line therapies among these patients, whereas the conventional immunosuppressants like methotrexate or cyclosporine, they are much more affordable. However, they do not act directly on the TNF-mediated pathways. So, based on this background, our aim was to investigate the effect of TNF inhibitors compared to conventional therapies on the risk of cardiovascular events. Our question was whether the TNF inhibitors have an effect on the incidence of cardiovascular events. Our population was patients with immune-mediated inflammatory diseases who were treated with TNF inhibitors, and we compared this treatment group with conventional non-biological therapies. And as an outcome, we investigated the incidence of cardiovascular events with different effect measures. We hypothesized that TNF inhibitor biologicals can decrease the risk of cardiovascular events in IMID. Our systematic search was conducted in November using 3 different databases. And after the selection process, we got 53 eligible articles with eligible data, from which I would like to present now 23 outcomes from 11 studies with fully domain-matched multivariate hazard ratios. As a first result, I would like to show you the risk of major adverse cardiovascular events, including myocardial infarction and stroke, among patients with rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, and spondylosis ankylopathica. We compared TNF inhibitors with conventional therapies, and as you can see, we used multivariate hazard ratios, and the overall effect was here 0.74, which means that TNF inhibitors can reduce the risk of major adverse cardiovascular events compared to conventional therapies. This result was also statistically significant and also clinically relevant. On the second forest plot, I would like to show the risk of cerebrovascular events among patients with rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, and inflammatory bowel diseases with the same intervention and comparator group and with the same effect measure, multivariate hazard ratios. The result, the pooled result after the analysis was very similar to as for MACE. The overall effect was here 0.75, which means that the TNF inhibitor group can reduce the risk of cerebrovascular events with about 25%. This was also significant. And last, I would like to present another type of outcome, cardiovascular event, myocardial infarction, among the same population. We compared here TNF inhibitors with conventional therapies as well. And we got an overall effect of 0.66, which means that TNF inhibitors, very similarly to as it was for MACE and cerebrovascular events, can decrease the risk of myocardial infarction as well significantly, and this result was also clinically relevant, as you can see on the plot. We have some strengths and also limitations. I would like to highlight that we used domain-adjusted multivariate hazard ratios. And another important strength is that this study will be a comprehensive review of immune-mediated inflammatory diseases and their connection to cardiovascular comorbidities. And I would like to highlight two limitations as well. There are only observational studies in this topic, only prospective and retrospective studies. And another limitation is that the outcome definitions were very heterogeneous. We can conclude that TNF inhibitors can decrease the risk of cardiovascular events in immune-mediated inflammatory diseases compared to conventional therapies. And our implication for the practice would be that TNF inhibitors could be used over conventional therapies in patients with a higher risk of cardiovascular diseases. And important implications for the research are that randomized control trials in this topic, use of unified cardiovascular event definitions, and standardized follow-up times are needed. Here you can see my first project progress. We are working on the risk of bias assessment, and I start writing the manuscript very soon. In the second project, we are focusing on the most common immune-mediated inflammatory disease on psoriasis. Psoriasis affects not only the skin, nails, and joints, but through the systemic inflammation, there is a higher chance to develop cardiovascular comorbidities. And as it was presented, tumor necrosis factor alpha is a crucial cytokine. But nowadays, interleukin-23 Th17 axis considered to be the major pathogenetical background in psoriasis. Both pathways have shared immunological ways with atherosclerosis, thus cardiovascular diseases. In psoriasis, with TNF inhibitors, there are data that suggest to decrease the risk of cardiovascular events, but with novel therapies, there is a lack of evidence. So our aim is to compare the different kind of biological therapies on the risk of cardiovascular events in this specific IMID psoriasis. Our question was, is that what is the best biological treatment to decrease the risk of cardiovascular events in patients with psoriasis? Our population would be psoriatic or psoriatic arthritis patients, and we would like to compare the different biological treatment group. The outcome would be the same. We would like to measure the occurrence of cardiovascular events, and we hypothesize that the novel therapies inhibiting the interleukin-23 Th axis are superior to TNF inhibitors in reducing the risk of cardiovascular events. Our clinical implication here is that to choose the best biological treatment to reduce the burden of psoriatic arthritis patients. The topic is feasible, and once my first project's manuscript is in an advanced level, I will finalize the Prospero registration and go with this second project as well. Here you can see my summary. We would like to complete our first project in May and the second in summer. Thank you for your kind attention.
Congratulations, very nice studies. In your first study, I mean, you compare one treatment, I mean the TNF inhibitors, with multiple other ones, to my best understanding.
Yes.
So actually the problem could come on the other ones because some of them may have side effects or kind of stronger side effects while others are not. So wouldn't it be possible to do actually a network meta-analysis because of this?
Yes, it's a very good question, thank you. Unfortunately, we couldn't have a network meta-analysis because these are not RCTs. So just observational studies, and most of them are retrospective ones. So we cannot do any network meta-analysis, and it is true for the second project as well. It could be a good topic for a network meta-analysis, but we could not use this method.
Subgrouping by different kind of treatments.
Yes, where it is possible, we are doing subgroups. For example, we will have subgroups with specific active substrates, like with adalimumab. This is a type of TNF inhibitor with the most common conventional therapies methotrexate, so this will be a specific subgroup. And yes, we are planning to do more as well.
You already achieved quite a bit. I mean, just showing that actually, I mean, the average of the other ones are actually worse, I mean, by outcome compared to the TNF inhibitors. But if you can go to more specific details, I mean, I think that would be an upgrade.
Yes, it is definitely planned.
Nice presentation. You think that the beneficial effect of this TNF-alpha drugs and ustekinumab but others are related to the effect of these drugs on the endothelial cells, or with the decreasing of the inflammation as a general effect?
Actually both. So the TNF inhibitors have an effect on the intima media thickness as well, and they inhibit the inflammation in several points as well, so on cytokines and on decreasing, they can decrease the level of other pro-inflammation molecules, so they influence these processes on several inflammation points.
I'm just curious that how long were the follow-up across the studies, and were there significant differences?
Yes, it is. Thank you for the question. It is. It's crucial in survival analysis. There were significant differences because in some studies the follow-up was only 1 year. In some cases there were a 5-year follow-up. There was a 5-year follow-up, so yes. But with multivariate hazard ratios, that can be balance this type of problem.